Hi guys.
Hey
Hello.
guys.
Hello.
Hello.
Let's wait a couple more minutes
Yep.
and then we get started.
I have a lot of meetings today and really sleepy. So I will be silent.
Cool. Today, though, as far as I see, this community call is going to be a quick one because, yeah, we don't have like much things to announce this week, but still, it is worth, I guess, explaining a couple of things.
If you're talking about documentation, yeah, we collected a lot of things from technical writers of input output and Theodora. So we need to have a plan and execute it.
Awesome. Let's get started, I guess. We can wait for the other members of the community while they join. Reminder to, as always, check the Code of Conduct and Antitrust Policy Notice from the Linux Foundation. Then, as I was trying to say earlier, we have a pretty quick agenda today. We are going to talk about the second version of the Identus documentation website. As Yuri has introduced right now, we have had a review process internally in IOHK, and from that internal review process, we got a bunch of feedback and improvements to make. It is pretty obvious if any of us goes to the documentation website that things got a little bit not super well structured, if that makes sense. And I think that we can build a more structured version of what we intend. That it's going to basically have 2 or 3 categories, like learning category, developer resources, and SDK reference. Those are the 2 or 3 categories that we are going to have on the top menu. And then underneath, we are going to have the regular sidebars in the documentation portal. This, of course, is not going to be a one-day change. It's going to be like a regular thing that we continuously improve. But the first patch will bring a big difference. Then, as usual, we are going to have a little bit of time if there's any topic that we want to discuss as part of the community, or if there's any open discussion on GitHub, we are going to take a look at that. Awesome. So as I was saying, we are building the second generation or the next generation of the documentation website for Identus. This is going to replace the existing website. Do not expect any changes in styles, images, or things like that. So all that is going to remain as it is. It's more on structuring the navigation, on structuring also the top navigation bar. So we have 3 categories: learn, developers, and technical reference. The difference between the 3 is like kind of pretty obvious, but I think that it's worth covering it in the meeting. So in Learn, we are going to have like resources that are directly related to SSI and concepts around SSI, digital identity, Cardano, the Prism node, writing transaction on chain, all that. On developers instead, what we are going to have is like the typical quick started guide to get set up to run the cloud agent, to get set up running issuance on the SDK, to get set up running issuance on Swift or on any other platform. And the third category is going to be the most advanced one that is not suited for every single developer that could come and knock the door of Identus, but more like the most advanced technical reference that we are going to have. This is going to include the existing pages that we have for the Cloud Agent, Open API specification, SDK reference, and all that. As we said, the second point in this presentation, improving the top header navigation, which is going to be learn, developers, and technical reference. Then what I mean by improving category navigation, if you go to the current website, on the left part of the website, we usually have the sidebar. Then this sidebar over time got bloated with a mix of contents that are learning things. Other things are concepts that are also, they could belong to the learning category, but there is also a mix of developer resources like configuring your environment and all these kind of things that will be now placed somewhere else. And in general, I've also detected that we have a little bit of duplicate content, if that makes sense, especially when we talk about categorizing the different sections. There is pieces of code that are almost replicas or copies of another piece of code that lives on another link. So we are also going to review those and get rid of that to make it very easy to use. Any questions so far? Cool. Then, as I've mentioned also, this list of changes or improvement plan or roadmap for V2 comes from a bunch of documents that the company has shared with us, where we have there is a lot of things that we need to improve. So we are first creating the first structure roadmap that is going to be the documentation V2. But then there is other things that are related to how the website gets indexed on Google and how easy it is to find and share content from our doc portal. And we will probably be announcing further improvements on the following weeks and months. This is a quick teaser, like do not expect the things to be literally like that because I'm still doing changes and adjusting things, but this is more or less how it's going to look. On the top menu, we are going to have these three elements that we saw. And then on the left bar, we are going to see different sections. But again, I'm going to be like very picky, if that makes sense, in what things belong to learn, what things belong to developers. So this sidebar is going to be very easy to use. In the learning part, what we are going to show, the overview is the website that, sorry, the overview link that you're seeing here is basically the same content that you are seeing on the right. Then we are going to have a list of components. And learning is going to be purely about understanding the concepts, the components, but like high level architecture or high level definition of what it does. In developers instead, we are going to go one level deeper where we are going to showcase how to use the Cloud Agent, how to configure the Cloud Agent, how to do the same things with the SDKs and these kind of things. Also, we are probably going to have a way to use an interactive demo, like the demos that we've showed for the past years. I think that there is a very easy way that we could include those demos inside the portal itself. So in developers, we will have a section where you can not just read documentation, but also interact with that and see how the functionality works. Like imagine the typical Apollo website that we had where you could generate the keys, you could store the keys, you could create deeds. So we are going to have not just the text explaining you how it works, but also the button for you to play with it and also a code example for you to copy and paste on your project. That's about it about the teaser. I'm not sure if you guys have any questions or concerns about this change. Cool. If not, I think that we can jump to the next section, which is going to review the GitHub discussions and the typical session that we do with Q&As at the end. I don't feel like we have open discussions inside the project. At least on TS, there's nothing new to be mentioning. This requires a little bit of work. Yuri probably agrees with that. But yeah, I'm going to probably cover the one that is closer to what I do. Okay, this probably can be closed already. This is fixed. What else do we have? Okay, we have a bug, we have transports. Maybe let's, this is a low priority item that I kind of thought a while ago. If we compare it to other competitors or other solutions like CreditTS and things like that, they are having the concept of the transport that is basically the DITCOM transport. So I think introducing this level of detail and degree of protocol inside our SDKs will be beneficial for the SDKs. Still, this is a huge change. So it changes so many things that it needs to be assessed properly. Here, though, what I defined is that we could have transports for DITCOM logic, but also other platforms that are not using DITCOM in a future, or make it extremely easy to adapt to other technologies not using DITCOM. That's the first one. Then there is some things that I introduced in the past weeks that we are going to make the TypeScript SDK a monorepo. And the reason why we are doing that is because we are going to be adding more and more packages. One thing that stands like that I clearly see that we could do and achieve is that we could build a cloud agent API client that works out of the box. So you guys no longer need to code your own API clients in case you are using TypeScript. If not, then you will need to code it or we will auto-generate it in several languages for that to be accessible. The second packages that we are probably going to be moving is a React-friendly wrapper for the TypeScript SDK. And also in a future, we are probably going to be step by step. Again, this is not going to be an easy change, but we are going to be React Native friendly. So we could expect maybe more probably on 2026 that there is going to be a lot of work on React Native with Identus starting with Apollo, and then we are going to continue with the other components. And then everything will live inside the, well, about the React Native components, we have not yet taken the decision, but it is likely that they end up living in the SDKTS repository at some point. This, of course, is a big change, at least on the TypeScript SDK, because first of all, we are using the NPM to install packages, while we are now going to be moving to using NX as a bundler or something like, not bundler, but it is a tool for workspaces in Node.js. Then we are also going to stop using NPM and instead we are going to be using Yarn. And probably this will be structured like the typical monorepo on TypeScript, right? We have packages slash something and the contents of the SDK, like the source will be in there. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Roberto, please.
Yeah, that's all great. Question. I remember that you were talking about using Biome to replace the linter. Are we moving towards that to have everything, running? I tested it and it works great. I've been
yeah.
adapting that for my own project. So
it is highly likely. Like, to be honest, I wouldn't mind switching to Biome.
Okay.
Because as I told you when we shared that conversation, is that it's out of the box without any specific configuration. It does things very well.
Yeah, and it's fast.
Yeah. Also, it's
Yeah.
very fast.
Yeah.
Basically, it would be replacing Biome by whatever Slint configuration has, which is probably not very advanced. But you
Yeah,
see,
and the good thing is it mixes Preacher and the linter in a
correct,
single thing. So you
correct,
get the formatting and also the linter abilities.
correct. Also, in case you were using VS Code or Cursor or something like that, it will automatically update the prettifying and it will run the
Mhm.
commands as you develop. So
Mhm.
it's going to be, yeah, in my opinion, we should do it. Let's
Cool.
maybe
And
add
we
a
can
GitHub
integrate it
ticket for that.
with CI. We can integrate it in the CI pipeline. So anyone that contributes and is not using Biome and commits something that breaks the rules, it will be stopped by the CI and easily fixable by anyone that, or even by the CI fixable right there, all the formatting and everything. So could be very beneficial to kind of streamline the whole thing.
Yep, we completely agree. I am going to create this rough ticket. I will add better descriptions later. But yeah, this is kind of the path that at least TypeScript SDK is going to take.
Mhm.
So yeah, not sure if you guys have any questions about anything that I said. This is of course going to be a transition, so do not expect things to radically change in the following weeks, but let's say in the following months, we are going to start adjusting and modernizing the SDK TS. And this is going to be a one-shot thing. So we do not expect to have to maintain this further. So we are switching from single repository or single package to having multiple packages and a more modern approach, not using NPM and another list of things that we want to do. But that will be it. Also, if you go and check the integration tests, they are its own project. So this could be just a package inside the Yarn workspace. And there is no need to have separate logs and all these kind of things. Awesome. I think that's all from my side. I'm not sure if you guys have any other question or any other community member wants to bring a point or discuss anything additional. Cool. Well, today we don't feel really inspired. That's fine. I think that we still need to make a bigger effort to try and be more creative in these sessions and also try and make sure that all the community members from the team assist to the meeting. And I don't know, it's just a training muscle that we need to get stronger at. If there's nothing else, Yuri, if you agree, we can just close the meeting at like now.
Yep, I agree, and I would add that in background we are also working on adapting NeoPrism into the Identus platform, like changing Docker images, thinking how to integrate it together with VDR, and we also are working on VDR in order to finish this till the end of this year. So this also our background duties pending right now.
Can you, well, maybe if you were very tired, you already said that, but maybe somebody else that has been working on the VDR can give an update of where we are?
Fabio, but if they're here, you're welcome.
Sorry, I was reading. What was the question about the VDR?
Yeah, if because like for example, me, I've been like outdated on what's the current state of the VDR. So if you can give everyone a quick overview of where we are.
Okay. So Pat is working in the integration. He can talk more about it. And I was like testing the VDR. I found a new bug yesterday night.
Okay.
So the new bug is that with a future, we have a update event on the VDR storage with a future key of the DID. So the key is still not there. When the key is inserted, that event starts to be valid, and that's so it's a bug. So I'm fixing that right now. And other than that, I'm working in like integrating the having a managing the state of the blockchain in the VDR itself instead of waiting. So it's easier for the user to use the VDR. So
Okay.
I'm integrating with the database, and Pat can talk more about the integration with the cloud agent.
Yeah, so for the integration, we have already the in-memory driver and database driver. So endpoint is already there, but we are working on adding the new Prism driver, which we have some problem because, and I'm waiting for Fabio to fix some issue with the driver. Other than that, we also trying to phase out the Prism node because Prism node is not gonna be, it's not gonna catch up with the new spec. So that's why I'm working on integrating Neo Prism with the cloud agent. Yeah, so all this still in progress, but on the driver side, I think it's pretty well. There's big progress there. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Do you see NeoPrism completely replacing the Prism node? I think it has high chance to happen, right?
Yeah, I want to get rid of Prism node.
Yeah.
And this is a good trigger to do it.
Yeah, I agree. And may I ask, in terms of the Catalyst proposal, in what phase are we? It's if not the last one, the one before the last one, right?
It's the last one, I think.
Okay.
We need to do the workshop, so we need to schedule today. I did some slides for presenting the driver, and yeah, we need to show some code also, so we need to schedule those days.
Schedule those days or do it as part of the community call. That's maybe another option.
But it can be as the community call, but let's like say in advance, at least 1 week in advance, that we are going to do the workshop.
Of course. Okay. Awesome work, guys.
Yeah.
I have an open question for everyone.
Please go ahead.
So in the recent months, like in the last IIW, I wasn't there, John was there, but there was a special day for kind of identity and AI sort of, discussion, either integration or whatever work or whatever else people are thinking about. And I've been thinking a bit about that, about how, like, is it possible or useful to say, for example, let an agent or provide to an agent a tool used for, say, DIDCOM or to verify a credential, something like that, that they can kind of run on their own. Is there anything that we could do to allow that to happen from the SDK perspective? Like, have you thought about it? Like, I know we have APIs that we can call, but is there anything, like, for example, right now the cloud agent doesn't really, like, if you own a wallet in the cloud agent, you don't really have access to the DIDCOM channel of that wallet, right? It's all abstracted through the API. So I was kind of thinking if it's even, if it even makes sense to kind of open that up, or just that's an experimental thing, like nothing else, just a thought experiment.
Correct, but what prevents you from building your own tool with TypeScript SDK?
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. Like, I think I could create some sort of tool that enables an agent to kind of simulate or run a real wallet. That's really what I'm trying to kind of achieve, because that's the basic, basic start to do anything else. But I don't know how you guys feel about something like, or if Identus could be like, oh yeah, we can add that sort of feature, or can add some sort of of work. I don't know if there's something that have you guys thought about or discussed or anything like that. If it's in your minds, basically, that's what I'm asking. Because I know that I could probably like come with something with pieces and try to make it run. So the basic idea is like, can an agent that knows how to call tools use a real wallet to verify a credential, for example? Because that might be useful somehow. I don't know how, I don't know what, but as a basic skill or feature for an agent. And of course, like an encrypted DITCOM channel that is usable for an agent, that could also be interesting. So my question is,
it is totally doable, but then we also need to understand that every time that you use a tool, you send a response, right? And then if that response is a DITCOM message, you are filling in all your input tokens with just a DITCOM message.
Yeah,
right.
I'm not saying it's impossible. Also, at the same time, like you are verifying a credential, right, with OpenAI. If you use the tool to fetch this credential, the tool would respond and put that SDJWT credential inside the payload. So you would be sending your credential literally to the next request on the agent.
So
that,
yep.
yeah, I was going to say, so about that, I'm thinking about that, integrating those type of tools into the AI agent with MCP. And I was trying to do on my free time just a proof of concept that would be possible.
Okay.
Yeah, just
Me too.
try.
Okay.
Yeah, just explain to
And
the AI model the flow, and then give the tools that basically calls the protocols,
right.
and leave the AI to decide what tool to call next. So explain the flows in some way, in a diagram or something that the AI could understand, and then explain that each of the tools that basically says which of the protocols, and just having an integration that way with MCP, and see what does it go, what does it happen. So I'm kind of interested on seeing also something like that.
Nice.
Okay, great. Yuri, I see Yuri.
It's a great idea, and could I ask you to create a discussion in GitHub so we can formalize this idea and discuss it with our product manager, and probably we'll add something to the roadmap in 2026.
Cool.
Yeah, but just for a proof of concept, I think it's not that hard.
Yeah, it's not.
In terms of DITCOM, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I think the way to do it is giving the agent the ability to call a tool. It's giving the agent ability to like run deterministic code outside of the generative thing that they create. So combining those either through MCP, I've never really liked MCP approach, to be honest.
Okay.
I think they are discarding that even at Anthropic. They are like replacing that with something else. I read about it like a week ago or something. After their kind of skills update.
So the cloud is
it's
going for skills because it's more.
I think so.
Yeah, it's in a different level than MCP, but MCP is more standard right now. But either way,
It is, yeah. MCP it's been around for longer, but it's more inefficient in the sense like you pass the payload many times and kind of it has some failures. So addressing that, they're kind of simplifying the approach in how to call tools.
Just define tools and not use MCP.
Right. So yeah, I was just thinking about this and how can we use Identus in order to give an LLM understanding on how to check credentials and not necessarily issue, but verify credentials could be very useful in a real workflow, right? So
yeah, Well,
Um,
I would propose maybe to Fabio, you and myself that I've also got a side project related to this, that
okay.
we could basically build a proof of concept. And we
Yeah.
experiment with it, we see where it lands, and yeah.
Awesome. That would be great.
Yeah, I can run it myself. I can build a model that you download on the browser directly, that runs entirely in the browser, that has
Oh,
tool
nice.
support, and we could
Really? Oh,
basically try it in there. Yeah.
okay. Okay. That, yeah, like some sort of, okay, so that combination is very powerful, like a very lightweight expert
Offline.
model.
Yeah.
Yeah. That it's not, it doesn't know everything, but it knows how to use Identus. Right? Know how
Yeah.
to use SSI, check credentials, stuff like that.
Yeah.
It could be something, and it runs in your browser. That could be something very interesting. All right, let's keep talking about that. We can keep that discussion or open that discussion. I'm very interested into, trying that out.
Yeah. Also something that I was experimenting, but man, I don't have like enough brain cells to do everything I want to do. But something I was experimenting the weeks I rejoined the project was to, instead of having to deal with documentation changes and all that, to build a synthetic dataset from the TypeScript SDK. And what do I mean by that? So I analyze all the code in the TypeScript SDK using TypeScript.
Mm-hmm.
And then I create, I think it was 40K questions and answers about the project.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what does this file export? And the answer. And all these kind of things. It was like pretty automated, but I wasn't
Oh,
able to fine tune the model properly to run on web GPU. So it's really hard. It's not my area of expertise, but we can try.
okay. Okay. That is interesting. I've done something similar with a tool. It's called Ada, which is like it's like the old school sort of precursor to Cloud Code on all the CLIs.
Uh-huh.
And they map the source code, and whenever you make a question, they kind of know how to they find the file that you're referring to and add it to the context. So it's dynamic. You don't have to add the whole source code in order to create a task, right? They go, hey, you should add this, to the context, yes or no, and then it kind of knows because it maps the thing. And there's another project that does something very similar, which is it creates a knowledge graph of the source code and kind of finds the dependencies and what does, what the short description of what this function does and stuff like that. And then you can also use it in order to, when you create a plan for an issue, when you create a planning session, before editing code, before generating code, it kind of does like a thinking step of, oh, okay, this is the approach I'm going to take, this is the files I'm going to reference, and then packs everything in and generates the code. It's a lot more accurate than just, byte coding. It's like structured byte coding, basically. Those are very interesting. And, you run that through an API model, like not running the model locally, but if you have the resources of the machine to run a local model to do that, then you can do it too. But usually you
Yeah.
just call the API. But these tools like kind of create a previous step where they map the whole source code, create a knowledge graph of the source code, of the dependencies and your components, and kind of like the semantics of your source code, basically. And that helps the LLM to determine what to add and not to add, and helps a
Yeah,
lot.
you have, in order to achieve something like that, I think that you have 2 or 3 paths. The first one would be using a vector database with a pre-trained model
Yeah.
to do RAG. The
Yep.
second option would be to create a text dataset, if that makes sense. And before you put your question, paste the whole dataset in there. That's
Right.
something that only GPT-5 Pro or something like huge context could manage. But yeah, we still can explore it. Let's do it.
Cool.
I'm not sure if you
Yeah.
have like 5 minutes after and I call you on Slack on Discord.
Yeah.
And
Sure.
we take
Yep.
a look at something together.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Absolutely. All
Cool.
right. That's all I got for today.
Yep.
Uh-huh.
No, that was a nice way to extend the session. Thanks a lot, man. Cool. So I hope that we all have a great rest of the week with a lot of SSI and interesting things to do. And see you next Tuesday.
Ooh.
Thank you,
All
guys.
right.
guys.
Thank you, guys.
Ciao, ciao.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Ciao.